Today's topic is how we actually do it is we call it policy maximization rate. So as the word itself says, we actually maximize your coverage and actually optimize your premium paid. Most of us who are not very experienced in insurance selecting the product, right? So we tend to buy a lot of those that actually come together, right? It's not your fault lah. It's just that it's the progress of the industry lah, I would say. In fact, if you count the cost of insurance, KC, we did the calculation, right? The investment link, the traditional cost of insurance can be so much cheaper than the term policy. They basically coined this term called policy maximization rate because I was trying to explain to my client, but I didn't know how to put it into a one-liner. So what does PMR mean, right? PMR 125 means that for every 1 ringgit of premium, basically you are using it to cover you 125 ringgit in terms of coverage, right? So let me give you an example. And a lot of people ask, is 125 good or no good? So in our past 12 years experience, we realized that if, let's say, when you do the exercise later, I encourage all of you to do it as well. If you find that your PMI is less than 100, right, normally is under-optimized. And we've seen a lot of investment policy which is skewed towards investment and savings, then is really neither here or there, right? So it will be less than 100. If your PMI rate is 100 to 200, it's somewhat maximized but actually can improve further. And if your policy is above 200, then the higher the number, the better, right? But of course, we also encourage you that you have to make sure that each and every portion of your coverage component is being covered. Because we've seen people who the PMI is above 200, but actually some components are 0. So you have to be careful on that. Now, here's the 4 components that everybody must have. The first coverage is actually death and disablement. Surprisingly, in Malaysia, these two, although it's a 2 different coverage, but normally it comes in together 90% of the time. Unlike if you see in Singapore and US, it could be separately. You can just get death coverage or disability coverage or critical illness coverage, right? The next component is what we mentioned just now, critical illness coverage. The third component is what we call a personal accident, and the last component is what we call a medical card. Now, why is this all 4 needed? Is because this 4 coverage will basically cover 95% of whatever coverage that you need out there. A lot of people will be asking me, what about those advanced or early critical illness? I would say for those, it would be a good to have. That means if you have more budget, then you can actually go for it. And this is what we help him to do. So if you notice, we summarize everything. Basically, he has about 700,000 of death and disability coverage, CI coverage, critical illness coverage of 305,000, hospitalization coverage of 711,000, and accident of 430,000. So that's how he actually got about 13,000 Sing dollar. So if you translate, it's about 38,000. And when we actually help him to go through this whole policy maximization process, of course, first thing first, we have to understand his needs. Then only we can work out what is his true need of coverage. So you can see here, we sort of increase it by 1 time, about 1.3 million, 975,000 of CI. For the medical, he decides to reduce it slightly because he felt that he has, I think, 3 different medical insurance policies. So he said that it's good just to keep 2, 1 in Singapore and 1 in Malaysia. And of course, last but not least, we have 795,000 of personal accident. So if you notice, we help him to get a higher coverage in this case with a lower premium. So then you'll be asking me hey, how is it possible? So this is what we want to move into the details of it. After when we help him to maximize, we technically save him about 27,000.
So I think this part is very interesting. So from 12,000, about 13,000 Singapore dollars kind of premium, and now we help him reduce it. But in the meantime, you reduce the premium down to 3,800 a year. But his protection actually went up.
Yeah, basically we are using what we call a wholesale solution. And later I'm just going to go through and give you guys what we mean by wholesale solution versus retail solution.
As you summarize, in a nutshell, is that RM1 premium you pay a year, how much coverage can you buy of it? So that's the whole point of the PMR, right? So and by the way, if you're talking about medical card, you are taking the annual limit, not the lifetime limit.
This is the part. If you're interested to download the ebook, right, and also the template, you can actually key in this, or if not, you can scan the QR code, and you can start doing it as per what we shared with you earlier.
Thanks a lot, Kao. Really appreciate your
Thank you, PC.
kind sharing here. Thank you so much.